Yeah. So I'm going to recovery services vault. So today we are going to talk about files and folders backup of on-premises workloads. So here in this case, I'm going to consider my laptop as one of the on-premises server. Okay. And I'm going to backup few files and folders to the Azure. And once the backup is completed, I'm going to restore them. So click on prepare infrastructure. You have an option to download the agent from the Azure portal. So click on download agent for Windows Server or Windows Client. So in this case, I'm going to use this agent for my Windows client, Windows 10 operating system. So once
Uh,
you
Hi,
don't,
Kamlakar. This is Vijay. Is files and services. This is on premises. We have already lab set up in on premises. How actually a small my doubt before introduction itself. Is
Mhm.
there any on premises setup already existed? How like
No, we don't have the setup. So as it says, right, it can be used for Windows client and Windows Server. Okay, I'm going to install it in my laptop. So it's not running on Azure, right? It's a on-premises Windows client, correct? So you can install this on a client's operating system and backup a specific files, and you can restore it. If you have a server running on a VMware or a Hyper-V or a bare metal, right? You can download this and follow the same step. There is no difference, and there will not be any much difference in terms of configuration.
so? This mean like if we can install the agent on any device, any operating system already.
Okay. So I'm going to mute everybody. In case if you have any questions, just unmute yourself and ask the questions. Or just chat with me in case if you are unable to unmute, okay? All right, yes. Today, yeah, as we discussed, right? So we have recovery services vault, which is used for you know business continuity and disaster recovery solutions. One of them we are talking is business continuity solutions, which is nothing but Azure Backup. So Azure Backup can be used for on-premises and Azure workloads protection. So today we are going to talk about on-premises workload protection. So we are taking a use case where you have a on-premises Windows client operating system. Okay, and this client operating system has specific some of the files which are very critical, and you want it to back up uh, so that in case if your user is deleted, you can restore them, from the backup. It can be installed in a Hyper-V machine, Hyper-V virtual machine, and VMware virtual machine. And if you have a bare metal, so you can install in the bare metal server as well if you want to back up a specific files and folders. And the same agent can be used to back up the Active Directory system state configurations. Okay, so the agent which we are going to install is Mars agent, which is nothing but Microsoft Azure Recovery Service agent. So this will have a binary called cbengine.exe. This binary or this process is responsible for taking backup and transferring data to the vault. So once we install this Mars agent, I'll be able to show you this process and how this process is, transferring data, and what are the logs we need to refer in case if there is any failures. Okay, so I'll quickly go back to Azure portal, and I'm in the recovery service vault, and I'm choosing the first option. Where is your workload running? My workload running is on premises, not on Azure, and I want to back up the files and folders. As discussed earlier, this tool also can be installed in Azure virtual machines. In case if you do not want it to back up the entire VM using the Azure backup service, if you wanted to back up a specific files and folders, you can download this agent and install it in one of the Azure VM and try to back up the specific files and folders. But as this product says, it is designed for on-premises workloads, not for the Azure workloads. It is recommended to use only for the on-premises workloads, not for the Azure. So, but it's still supported for the Azure workloads as well, Azure VM as well. Sometimes you might see performance issues if you install this tool on Azure virtual machine. So now I have downloaded the agent and I have downloaded the vault credentials. These vault credentials are used to used for registration with your recovery service vault. Once you install this tool in your laptop or in your server, so the server or a laptop or a client OS need to register with the recovery service vault. At that time, you're going to use the vault credentials. So without wasting time, let me go ahead and install this agent. So it's extracting the file, and you can see this is the location where it is going to install the binaries of the Azure Recovery Service agent. And there is something called cache location. So before it back up the data, it is going to copy the data into the cache location. In this location, it is going to encrypt the data and perform the compression as well. So that is the reason, whichever the location you're choosing for the cache, so this location should have the enough space to back up the data. So what Microsoft is recommended is at least you need to have 5% of the backup data. Free space should be available. Okay, so going to the next. If you have any proxy where the communication is going through, you can just select the proxy details and its IP address and port. In case if you have a proxy that needs authentication to be in place, you need to select this option and provide the credentials. Since this is the demo and lab environment, I'm not going to choose anything here. I don't have any proxy set up in my lab environment. Going to the next step, and it is recommended to use Microsoft updates so that it is compatible with the Microsoft updates in your operating system. Going to the next. So you need to have a Windows.NET Framework 4.5. The minimum version is 4.5, and you need to have Windows PowerShell also be installed. So I'm going to install this tool now. So once the installation is completed, we will proceed with the registration. This follow these steps. You need to download the agent, Mars agent. Okay. Once you download the Mars agent, you would need to install it, install the agent, and once the installation is completed, you need to register the Mars agent with Recovery Services Vault. Once the registration is completed, you need to schedule the backup. So once the backup is scheduled, so automatic backup will be triggered based on the schedule. You can also trigger the manual backup from the tool itself. So either it is automatic backup or manual backup. Post that, you will see the recovery points available. So in case if you get a situation to restore, you can use any one of the recovery point to restore the data from backup. So once the restore is completed, you can successfully have the files located in the target location. You can restore the files to same problematic server if it is, the server where you lost the files. In case if you don't have access to the server where this backup has been configured, so you can restore to another server as well. So while restoring to another server, you need to provide the passphrase of the original server and vault credentials as well, which means that the another server should be registered with the same RSV for the backups. Then only you'll be able to recover. We'll talk about these in a while. So at this moment, we have downloaded the agent, we install the agent. Now we'll proceed with the registration of the agent. So if you look at this, installation is completed successfully, and I'm going to proceed with the registration. Click on proceed to registration. it will open another window. In this window, you have an option to upload the vault credentials that we downloaded in a few minutes ago. I'm going to browse this, go into the download section, and this is the file that we downloaded. So I'm going to open this. So you can see here, it is going to provide your vault name and which location this vault is exist, what is your subscription ID, and when is this vault credentials are expired. So once it is expired, you cannot use the same credentials to, you know, register with the RSV. What you need to do is you need to go back to backup and go to the backup properties, and you have an option to, select this vault credentials. Just select already using latest vault credentials and download these credentials. All right. If you are using the expired credentials, the registration might fail. So going to the next step, this is very important page which you need to concentrate. The reason because Microsoft is going to encrypt the data that is stored in the Azure storage. We call it as an encryption address. So since this server is running on premises or not in Azure, so the data will flow over the internet. So we expect the data to be encrypted before it transfer over the internet. So with this passphrase, the data will be encrypted, and once it is stored, again Microsoft will encrypt the data. In case if you perform the restore, while restore, Microsoft will decrypt, and once the data has come to here in the server, you again have to decrypt. So during the decryption process, whatever the keys you are using here, the same keys has to be provided. If you lost these keys, you'll not be able to recover the data. Your Microsoft will not be able to help because they don't manage these keys from their end. So you have to generate these keys and store it in a secure location. So the recommendation is to keep this in a Azure Key Vault for a secure data storage or secure key storage, or you can store it in a multiple other locations. So most of the customers makes a mistake, like they store the keys in the same server. So in case if the server is not accessible, in case if the server is compromised with the ransomware attack, you don't have a way to read these keys. If you don't have these keys, you cannot restore the data. Though you have been backing up the data from last 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is. If you don't have these keys, you cannot restore the data. So there are situations, where customer servers are attacked by ransomware. The servers are compromised. They don't have access to the server. They cannot even log into the server, and they might have critical data. So they reach out to Microsoft, and Microsoft will not be able to help because they don't manage these keys. So it's always important to store this in a multiple locations, and it's recommended to keep them in a key vault. I'm going to browse it. I'm going to save this in my desktop as it is a test. Right? It's a test environment. I'm going to say test, and within that I'm going to store these keys. So it is giving you a warning again. You are storing the data into local machine. It's recommended to store this in a key vault. Click yes, and it's going to register with the Azure Recovery Service Vault. Let's wait for this registration to complete. Server has been registered successfully now, but you still see the warning here. The same warning it is, right? It's talking about the storing the passphrase in a key vault or some other locations to help you in data loss situations where your servers are hit by ransomware or you don't have access to the server. So now I'm going to launch the Microsoft Azure Recovery Service Agent console. So this is the console you see here. You don't need to go to Azure portal to trigger backup or restore from the backup. So everything can be managed from this tool itself. If you have 10 servers you want to back up as 10 servers, files and folders, you need to install this tool in 10 servers and restore those 10 servers to the Azure. So if I go back to the Azure Recovery Service Vault and go to the backup infrastructure here, and you should be able to see the registered server. You can see Azure Backup Agent. And if I click on this, you'll be able to see the server that is registered. This is my client operating system, which is registered. And right now, zero backup items. There are no backup items configured for on this server. And there's nothing that you can do here. Okay, everything will be managed from the console itself. If you look at this, there is no backup now option because we haven't configured the schedule yet. So to configure the schedule, click on the schedule backup now. So click on next here. You need to add backup items here. You can specify a specific files and folders. You want to specific multiple folders. It's up to your requirement. I'm going to choose a simple file to backup. Let me expand one of the file. I'll just go to otherwise I'll go to some other location. So let me do one thing. I'll go to this PC and create a test file here. Okay, this is the file. This is test. All right. This is the file I'm going to back up. I'll just add it again. Expand this. Going to the test folder, selecting the test file. All right, so going to the next. So this is where you can specify daily or weekly backup. And good thing with this tool is you can have 3 scheduled backups in a day, wherein Azure VM backup will have only one scheduled backup. So I'm going to choose 8 a.m. as one schedule. I don't want to choose any other schedules for now as it is for testing. And daily retention, you can say by default it's 180 days. It's up to you. You want to keep it for longer time or less than that. I'm going to choose 30 days. I don't want to have a weekly retention and a monthly retention and yearly retention for now. So going to the next, and this is the transfer over the internet, and the other things are from offline transfer. If you have a large amount of data up to 100 TB, you can go with the Azure Data Box solution, and you can also use your own disk and copy the data to your own disk and ship those disks to Azure Data Center. When it comes to the Azure Data Box, Microsoft will ship the disk to your data center location once you copy, and you can ship it back to them so that they will copy the data into the required data center, and you can have the data into the cloud. So today we are going to talk about the data over the internet. Click next, and now you can click on finish. So while that's happening, let's go to C volume and program files, and you can see Microsoft Azure Recovery Service Agent folder. And if you go to scratch location, it's not opening. Let's wait for this to complete then. Okay, it's stuck here. It is successful, but it is not getting closed. So I need to kill this manually. I'll have to go to the task manager. So I have killed it manually. Now let me relaunch it. Azure Backup. Now you have an option to backup now. So let's click on the backup now option to trigger the manual backup. So it is by default taking 30 days retention. So I'm okay with that for now. So click backup. So while this is backing up, let's go to this network and select the cbn.exe. And you can see this is the process which is actually, sending or uploading data to the Azure. So this is the Azure storage account IP addresses, and you can see the upload and download speed here. Um, so it's using around 1625. It's very less because we have very less data available. You can always look at this and see, whether upload is happening or not. If the upload is not happening, then you can see there is some issue with this agent. And if I go to services.msc, this was the now I think it's uploading. It's consuming more bandwidth here, right? Sending is more, and it is sending to 52.239 dot 150.138. That's IP public IP of Azure storage, I believe. So it's uploading the data. And if I go to this Microsoft Azure Recovery Services agent, you can see this service has to be in a running status. If it is in a stop status, ensure that you run this. Okay. And at the same time, if you have any antivirus that is in place, right, you need to have exclusions to this uh, cbn.exe binary that you're seeing here. And at the same time, this entire folder is to be excluded from the antivirus real-time scan and schedule scan. All right. So these are the some of the best practice that we have to follow when you configuring the backup. So backup has been completed successfully, and I'm closing this. In this console, you can see last backup status and the next schedule backup and how many recovery points available. What is the latest recovery point? What is the oldest recovery point available? You can see what is the backup item. It's a C volume. And I'll go back to the Azure Recovery Services Vault, and I'll just do a refresh under the backup infrastructure. So if I click on this, you can see backup items count is 1 because I'm backing up only one specific file. And even if I go to backup items, I should be able to see one backup item for Azure Backup Agent here. So here you can see, what is the server name, but there is no way to recover it because everything is managed from the console itself. You can only see what is the latest and what is the oldest recovery points, but you cannot restore it from here. Even if I go to the backup jobs from here, I cannot see anything with respect to this Mars agent backup jobs here because all the jobs can be seen from here itself. Okay. And two backups triggered. One is scheduled backup, which is triggered at 8 a.m. 1 minute ago. The other one was at 7:58 a.m., which I triggered manually. So now you have two recovery points. If you wanted to recover the data, you just need to click on recover data here. And I'm going to trigger to the same server, restore to the same server. I want to restore individual files and folders. So this is where you have to select the volume. I have backed up the C volume, and you can see the recovery points available here. This is the date, and you see the recovery point date is in a bold color. And if you click on this drop down, you can see the time when the backup is available. I'm going to choose the 7:58 a.m. and click on mount it here. It is going to use SQL service and going to mount a volume to your system. And you can see the details here. Recovery volume mounted as a disk. Browse the volume from the file explorer to recover the items. So what it is saying is it is mounted here, and I can go ahead and recover it. So probably I have some issues with the SQL service, or maybe I have antivirus that might be blocking this process. I am unable to see that here. Right now, let me go to disk management. Okay, it's showing here. All right, which is good. I'll just open this file or volume. Yeah, it's completed here. And I go to this. I'll try to open this. And you can see here the test folder, test document is available. So now you can copy this folder and files. And once you are done with the copy, you just go to your uh, console and just click on unmount. Even if I go to the disk management, you can see the file disk is attached, and I can just click on unmount now. So that has to be disappeared. This folder will be disappeared. Okay, if I go to this, the folder and the mounted volume is disappeared now. Okay, even from the disk management, it is disappeared. And here restore is completed. Recovery job is completed. In case if you see any failure, just double click this. And if it has a failures, there will be detailed details tab will be available. If you click on the details, it will give you what is the error message. Okay, so this is about backing up on-premises files and folders, and how do you recover it. Now, what I will do, since I don't have a way to export the jobs here, right?
Kamlakar, small doubt, Vijay. So
Yeah, the scenario in terms of recovery, there are two ways to recover. One is to restore to the same server and restore to the another server. So restoring to the same server is simple and straightforward as just shown you, right? Just in case if the original server is not available because it is compromised or it is deleted by somebody, you don't have access to the original server, but you have the critical data that is available in the backup. So now you are ready to build a new server. Okay, you're ready to rebuild a new server. What you want to do is you wanted to restore the data from the backup to this newly built server. So what you need to do is the first step, what you need to do is you need to register this server. Means you need to download the agent from the RSV and install the agent in the RSV and register the same server with the backup. Okay. Once you're registered, and you will have an option to recover the data. When you do a recover data, right, you need to choose the option recover to another server. When you choose that, it will ask you for two things. One, vault credentials of the RSV and passphrase of your original server. Okay, if you are able to provide those two, and it is the same restore process then later. You just need to select the recovery points, select the time, and recover the data. That is how you will be doing it. Okay. Only thing is you need to have a passphrase, and that is mandatory. In case if you don't have passphrase, you are going to lose the data. You cannot restore or recover the data.
that whatever the device client machine we logged in, it's we are ready to take recovery.
Correct, correct. That is why it's always recommended. Even Microsoft was giving a warning to us when we try to, register this machine to the Azure. It was keep on saying, hey, you should not, keep the file in a local system. You should keep them in an Azure Key Vault, or maybe you can have some other centralized location or have multiple copies. So that in case if something happened, you have a way to recover it. All right. So that is the recommendation.
Okay, Kamlakar, got it.
All right. So now let's do one thing. We will see in case whether we will be able to fetch the backup jobs details from log analytics workspace or not. So what I will do is I'll go to Azure portal and I'll look for the log analytics workspace. Log analytics workspace. And this is the workspace that we have configured yesterday. And my RSV data or recovery service vault diagnostic data is being sent to this log analytics workspace. So I'll go to the log section here and I'll just try to run add on backup jobs. In last 24 hours, it says nothing. Probably we need to wait for some more time. Okay, we'll have to wait for some more time to see the data. So what we will see is here we will see Mars agent as a backup type. Okay, for Azure VM, it's Azure IaaS VM. For database backups, it will be Azure workload. And for the files and folders, it will be, I think, Mars agent or files and folders. We'll check that. Okay, this is about configuring backup for on-premises files and folders. Now we will be configuring backup for one of the Azure SQL Server. So let me close this first and close this. So before I talk about configure the Azure database backups, let me explain you the use cases. So let's say I have a SQL server running on Azure VM. Okay, this is the SQL server running on Azure VM, and it might have multiple databases. So what you want to do is you wanted to back up these databases. For databases, we generally have the full backups, and we will have the differential and log backups. Okay, these are the three types of backups we generally configure. So most of the customers, if the workloads are running on premises, they might be using some third-party tools like Commvault to back up the on-premises database backups. So here we are going to use the Azure native service, which is nothing but recovery services vault. So let's say you created a recovery service vault. Now you want to back up this SQL databases, not the VM backup. We are talking about the database backups. So what you need to do is there are different stages it goes through. First, when you decide to back up these databases, it discover the server, SQL VM. Once it discovered SQL VMs, it's going to discover the databases. Okay. As part of the discovery of databases, Azure Recovery Service Vault is going to create a service account in the SQL server, SQL VM. The name starts with the WL backup SVC, which is nothing but workload backup service account. Okay, so this service account should have a sysadmin permissions, because this takes care of the registration process and this takes care of discovery of your databases. So we need to have a sysadmin permissions on the database. So once the discovery is completed, you are going to configure backup. So in the configure backup, you need to first provide a schedule. Okay, and the schedule, it could be a full backup, differential, and log backup. You can choose based on your requirement. Once the schedule is completed, what you're going to do is you are going to enable backup. So while enabling backup, there are a few things that we need to see. So right now, when you create a VM, when you have the database, when you want to configure the backup for databases, so you might have only, let's say 5 databases, right? Later, your team, your database team might create a new databases around 10 databases, let's say. So they need to inform you always, and saying, hey, there are 10 databases newly added to the server. Can you please enable backup? So this is like more of a manual process. In case if somebody missed to update, Azure administrator, there are chances that the database don't have the backup. So Microsoft introduced a feature called Auto Protect. Okay, so you don't need to inform anybody. You don't need to configure backup manually. If you enable this feature, automatically any database that is getting created, the database will have the backup configured, and that will be added to the policy where your server is already configured. Okay, so it will automatically add the database to the backup, and backups will be triggered and you'll have the backups available. with the auto protect option. How it happens is the WL backup SVC service perform the discovery operation very frequently on the server, and it does not impact the server performance or anything. So it's a very lightweight component that gets installed inside your machine, and it performs the discovery, and whenever it identifies the new databases, it's going to back up them. All right, so these are the steps that we'll go through it right away. So what I have is I have the virtual machine created already. So I'm going to the virtual machine section now. I'm going to virtual machine section. This is my virtual machine. I will try to log into the machine first. Yep. So I'm going to launch SQL Server Management Studio. Yep. I'm going to launch this.
Like database VM in Azure portal. This is pre-configured Kamlakar, this SQL Server Management Studio.
Yes, this will be automatically installed because we have chosen SQL Server as an image while creating the virtual machine. So SQL application and its related components already installed in Azure VM. So I'm going to connect to this server through SQL Server Management Studio. I'm going to use Windows authentication. Now I expand this databases section. System databases. There are 4 databases available. I don't have any database created. In case if you want to create a database, you can create it. And the security login that I'm talking about is here. So right now here we don't see any service account created. Okay, which says WL backup extension. So that will be getting created once we are done with the discovery. So at the same time, if I go to this PC and see volume and packages, plugins, right now uh, the extension is not installed yet. Even if I go to Windows Azure and logs, plugins, so you don't see that you know a WL backup extension is installed. Okay, so what I will do is I'll go to the Azure portal now. I'll initiate the discovery process, or I'll just go to backup and go to the getting started and reach to the backup section here. I'm choosing the Azure workload and SQL Server running in Azure VM. So now I need to go with the discovery of databases. As part of this, it's going to discover the server. It's going to discover the virtual machines. The VM and RSV should be in the same location in this case. Okay, I'm able to see the VM. And as I mentioned, as part of the first step, it discovered the VM. Now we need to discover the databases. This process might take some time. It will take around 15 minutes to 20 minutes. Depends on the databases you have it. Sometimes it might be very quick. You'll be able to see the job here, the registration job. It started on 8:21 a.m. It's 1 minute duration. If I go to view details, you can see some more activity here. So this is still in progress. We'll have to wait for some more time. I did refresh here. I don't see that account is created yet. Yes, now you can see the WL backup plugin SVC account is created automatically. And if I go to the properties and if I go to the server roles, by default is given as a sysadmin and public. So this is to ensure that the discovery operation will not have any problem. Okay, now I'm closing this. And if I go to this extension folders, see volume packages, plugins, and you see backup workload extension is installed. And you can see it's related binaries here. If I go back to the C volume, Windows Azure folder, log section, plugins, you can see it from here as well. In case if there are any failures, you can see the failures here in this log. So it looks like everything is going well. Um, and it has installed successfully. Let me go back to this. But the discovery is still in progress. It just installed the extension and configured the service account. And from Azure portal, you can also see one of the extension that is installed successfully. It's provisioned successfully, which is nothing but workload backup extension. All right. So now let's, it's still in progress. Yeah, it's completed. Just good. So now I'll go back to the backup items or backup jobs. Select SQL Server in Azure VM. Since we already discovered, so I don't need to go with the discovery process. I just need to click on view details to see how many databases are discovered. 3 databases are discovered. I'll go ahead and configure backup now. So by default, it's taking hourly log backup policy. It's the default policy that you see here, but let's create a new policy here. So it's taking a default name and the full backup. You can say 7:30 p.m. UTC every day. It is taking by default. In case if you want to modify, just click on edit here. So daily or weekly. So generally weekly is recommended. Weekly once should be fine for the full backup. You can specify any day where you don't have business hours, and during the non-business hours you just schedule this full backup. And retention, it's up to you how long you want to retain, 30 days or 15 days or some months or years. It's up to us. Click OK. And if you want to enable differential backup, just click on enable and ensure that you select all the days other than the days where you don't have the full backup. You have the full backup. If you have the full backup, let's not select the day for the differential backup. So its retention is for 30 days and log backup every 2 hours. By default, you can change it to 15 minutes also. All right. So if you want to enable compression, which will save your storage cost, sometimes it might impact your database performance because it has to do the compression. I'll just disable it for now because it's for testing, so I don't worry about the cost. So this is where you're going to add your databases. Click on add. So I was talking about the feature auto protect on. If I want to back up only specific database, I can just select this. Or if I wanted to back up all the databases and future databases, I just need to select on here. So it will automatically select all the databases currently what are available in the server and future database as well. Now I just need to click on enable backup. So this process takes some time. We'll resume it again once the backup is completed and we'll be able to see the backup jobs.